to the channel. I'm Stacy, and my goal here is to help you to play better and sound better in your worship services. Today I'm going to share my tone hack for dialing in sweet musical feedback. This is a setup I use when I cover the lead parts for Graves into Gardens, and I think that one's on the set list this week. That part sounds great with the feedback. We got a lot of held notes, and so the feedback really comes in to kind of give that part life, and it makes it a ton of fun to play. I set this one up using 3 different amps. I've got the Cali Texas Ch1, the Archetype Clean, and the Essex A30. The setup starts with the way I set up the amp. So I'll normally set the amp up at the edge of breakup, and that's going to be somewhere in the middle on that drive slider. But for this setup, I have that Cali Texas Ch1 and the Essex A30 set up with the drive at 7, which is a bit higher than I would normally use it. And then I have the Archetype Clean with that set at 8.5. And that sounds like a lot, but on that amp, it's not a ton. You can really run that at 10 and still get a clean tone if you pick it lightly. The goal here is to get a nice amp saturation, but without too much breakup. The second part to this setup is how we set up the compressor. So I use a Boss CS3 compressor on my board, and it doesn't have meters, but it does sound similar to what I use on the Stomp when I do use the Stomp for compression, and I use the deluxe comp on that one. I run the threshold typically at -30 to -35 decibels, somewhere around a 70% mix, and then I usually leave the output at 0. But for this setup, I've got the threshold set at -45, I've got the mix at 100%, and then I'm running the output, the level, at +7 decibels. And this just brings it up to at or maybe just a little bit above unity gain. The third part to this setup is the drive section. I tried several drives and I found 2 that work great together. I'm running the Ratatouille into the compulsive drive. I've got the compulsive drive set with the drive at about 2.5 and the output at 4.6. And the goal here is just to push that amp a little bit, not too much, and not really looking for a volume bump, just more crunch. And then I have the Ratatouille set with the drive at around 7 or 8, and then the levels at 7 or 8. I think the drive's at 7, the level is at 8, and then I've got the filter at 0. That's what sounded best to me on this one. The goal here is to get tons of saturation going into that compulsive drive, and then it's doing more stuff with that sound, sending it to the amp, and then the amp is where it's feeding back. The fourth element is just the way I've got the delay and reverb set up. I'm using the Elephant Man delay, which is like a deluxe memory man, and then the dynamic hall reverb. It's kind of a go-to. It sounds great. I have the Elephant Man set up with the feedback at 85%, and that's kind of a long trail. But you'll notice when we go through some sound samples, you don't really hear it repeating. It's just helping to perpetuate the sound. And then I've got the mix on that delay at 25%. The dynamic hall I have set at a 4-second decay and then a 30% mix. I'm going to run through the Cali Texas Ch1, showing you the various gain stages. So the amp by itself, the compressor, the OCD, and then the Rat. And then I'm going to run through all 3 amps with the chorus part for the song Graves into Gardens. All right, let's do it. use this setup live, the guitar resonates with the sound in the room and the feedback is oh so sweet. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, subscribe and hit that like button for good measure. There are a handful of downloads free for you in the description box below. You'll also find a ton of great song resources, including presets, song presets for HX Stomp and Helix, as well as tabs for a ton of songs, and most of them are in all 12 keys. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.